Good morning. Today is 30 November, the year 2012. I'm Dr. Dave Thompson, a volunteer at the Palm Springs Air Museum here in Palm Springs, California. As part of the Veterans History Project of the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., we conduct interviews of veterans and civilians who participated in our country's military conflicts, especially World War II. Today, I'm here at the museum along with fellow volunteer Bob Andrade, and today we have the honor and the privilege of interviewing Teresita Gomez. Teresita was a little girl in Manila during the Japanese occupation during World War II. So we're going to talk to her about that and a lot of other things. Teresita, so good to have you here.
Oh, my pleasure.
Okay. Now, I'm going to get you lined up here. Okay, that's good. Teresita, tell me, well, first of all, would you repeat and spell your full name for us?
My full name is Teresita, Teresita Gomez, Gomez. Gomez is my married name.
What was your maiden name?
My maiden name was Alvarez.
Okay.
Alvarez.
Okay, and when and where were you born?
I was born in Manila, Philippines on June 23rd, 1938.
1938. Okay, well, I was born in 1939, but not in the Philippines, so but we're about the same age.
Yes.
Yeah, it looks like life has been treating you well, at least of late. You look wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
And your father, what was his name?
My father's name was Vicente Alvarez.
And what did he do?
He was a civil engineer, and he worked for San Lazaro Hospital in Manila during when we were little and up to the time he passed in 1945, before the war was over.
Oh, really? Did that have anything to do with the deprivation that went on during that time?
Yes, medication is because he was diabetic, and so lack of medication was probably the cause of his death, and probably also food, nutrition.
Yes. And his ancestors, did they all live around in Manila, going way back, or tell us a little bit about his parents and grandparents and stuff, if you know?
I know his parents. His father was Francisco Alvarez. He was a lawyer and a politician. He was a congressman in 1901, the first assembly that was put together in the Philippines. He represented an area in the Bicol region called Camarines Sur. He was also a member of, as I understand, the Constitutional Congress.
This was close after, I guess, the War of 1898, or
after the War of 1898.
where,
yes.
Well,
The
Spain ceded Cuba as well as the Philippines
to the United States.
And there was the Battle of Manila Bay.
Yes.
It was interesting. One fellow that I interviewed here, and he is 101 years old, and he was a Marine Corps pilot in Guadalcanal, and shot down like 6 Japanese planes, and he lives here. He's General Payne is his name. But his father was in the Battle of Manila Bay. He was his father was in the Navy, and he was there during the battle. So, and we just saw him the other day. The Marine Corps birthday ball is always in November 11th. And so they have a celebration, and he was there, and they honored him, being the oldest ace, really. So, but that was interesting. And your mother, what was her name and her maiden name?
My mother's name It's Gloria Alvarez. Her maiden name was Pintado.
How do you spell that?
Pintado.
Okay, now I know Alvarez and Gomez are Spanish names.
Uh-huh.
Now that name, is that a more of a...
It's a Spanish name for painted.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's the literal meaning of pintado. It's
Oh.
painted. And the family came from, my grandmother's family came from the northern part of the Philippines, the Ilocos Norte. And
Not the same island that Manila is on?
no, yes, it's the same.
Same island,
It's
but just
the big
north.
island of Luzon, but it's the northern part.
I see, yeah. And I think, was there some relative on your mother's side that came from the United States, you think?
Yes. My mother's father came from the United States. We were told that he was a Thomasite, which means that he was one among the first group of teachers the United States sent to the Philippines to put together the educational system. But looking at the log for his name, it wasn't there. And so there was a Richard Strong. His name was Richard Strong.
Okay.
And I have a picture in the album.
Uh-huh.
And there was a Richard Strong, but he was a doctor.
Now, do you have cousins that are named Strong, or I mean, did that name come down through the family?
No. It didn't come down to the family. And our understanding is Richard Strong left the Philippines sometime after around 1917 during the First World
The
War.
First World War. Mm-hmm.
And never came back.
Did you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, I have 4 brothers.
And what are their names?
Their names are, the oldest is Raul. He was born in 1934. Then I have brothers who are twins, fraternal twins. Their names are Marine and Luis. They were born in 1936. Then I was born in 38. I have a younger brother whose name is Roberto, and he was born in 1940.
Now, your older brother, during World War II, did he get interned, or did the Japanese...
No.
I mean, were they, I mean, he was, by the time of the end, he was he was 16, 18 years old, where they could have used him for stuff.
45, yes, but during the time that we were in the Bicol region, where we evacuated in the 40s.
Spell that for me.
Which one?
The
The Bicol region?
Yeah.
Bicol
and
is
where,
Bicol.
yeah, and where in relation to Manila is
That's
that?
south of Manila, about 300 miles south of Manila, because my paternal side of the family came from the Bicol region,
Oh,
and that's what my grandfather represented, Camarines Sur in the southern part of Luzon.
So, well, I'll go back to the beginning, but just to tie this up a little bit. When the war started, were you living in Manila, or were you living?
And we were living in Manila
Did you go down there because
because of the Japanese occupation.
Yeah, okay. So
Yes.
down there, it wasn't much of an occupation. I mean, it didn't bother. There weren't as many Japanese around, or what?
Oh, there were. It was occupied.
Yes. Okay. Well, okay. Well, let's go back. So you lived. Okay, where in Manila? Do you remember the street you lived on, or where you lived when you grew up?
I have it down there.
Oh,
It's
okay. Good.
Camarines.
No.
I believe it's Camarines Street in Manila.
Yeah, Manila. Okay. And I always ask the people around here. Well, let me ask you this: were the Filipino people glad that the Spanish were were not controlling it anymore? Were they glad the United States came in, or did they care one way or the other, or what?
I believe they were glad. We were all glad that the United States came in.
And why do you think that is?
Well, for one, the countries, I guess, the country progressed under the American
Would be
regime.
better, or was it? Did you feel like you had more? Did they feel like they had more freedom under the Americans than the United States than they did under Spain?
Definitely, because under Spain there was colonialism, so you had this big difference between the rich and the very poor. Even now there's still that. It dates back to 500 years of Spain.
Yes.
You've got the big landowners and the big businessmen, and so you've got all the people under. You have to have the opportunities. The opportunities for education came around during the American time.
Was your family very religious? Did you go to church a lot when you were
Yes,
growing up?
very, very religious. My mother especially was very religious. She
Were you-
was part of a lot of ministries. She sang in a choir, and
what was the name of the church that y'all went to?
in Manila we went to Espiritu Santo Church. It was close to that San Lazaro Hospital and close to home.
It's like Holy Spirit, or
Yes, it's Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Espiritu Santo is Holy Spirit.
and in the other place that you lived, where did you go to church there?
Down in,
Mhm.
there was a cathedral in Naga City when we moved during the war. We moved to Naga City, and we went to church at the cathedral.
Look at it.
There was another famous one, but a little farther off. They say Peña Francia, and it was called the Peña Francia Church. People went there because there's the Virgin Mary, who was very miraculous, and they had a lot of people visiting.
Mm. So there were some miracles they thought that were
They
going on.
thought attributed to
Yes.
the Virgin over there.
Yeah. Did any of your you have any relatives that became priests or nuns that you know of?
I had a cousin who became a priest, but afterwards left.
The
My younger brother went to seminary during his high school, hoping, my mother was hoping he would be a priest, but didn't work out.
I know, like back in the 20s in Mexico and in the 30s in Spain, they persecuted the priests and nuns a lot. Did that ever happen in the Philippines that you know of?
No, I don't think
Don't
so.
think so. Okay.
They're very, very religious, and I don't know if I'm right.
I think you probably are, because I never heard of that either. I mean, in both cases, it was because like the atheists, took over the government for a while, and things like that. Yeah. What did your kids do when you were growing up for fun? Now, let me back up one more time. Here in the United States, the Depression was really bad back in like the 30s, and I usually talk to people about that are of our age or older, that either they or their parents grew up during that. Was there a depression at the same time in the Philippines that you know of?
In the 30s,
Yeah.
probably also affected by the economic conditions,
Yeah.
but I'm not aware of the
You don't-
impact.
Yeah. And your dad, up
Yeah.
until the war, had a job all the time?
He always
He's
had
had a
a
good
job,
job.
and my mom was a teacher.
Oh, okay. So what did your kids do for fun when you were growing up?
When we were growing up, depends on when
Let's say before the war.
before the war. do I remember.
Oh, that was.
We had
well, you
two pets, a monkey and a goat. And the monkey was up on a veranda. There was a tree close by. That monkey was tied with a long string so it could climb up the tree.
And this was in Manila?
This
We
was
had
in
them-
Manila. And there
So-
was a goat. My dad built a carriage, a little carriage, to transport the baby. And so my brother was always in that goat cart.
So did you have a big yard like in,
There
at
was
the
a
house?
big yard, There was a big yard. I remember that yard.
Was that a two-story house or was
It was, but the lower portion, there was a large staircase. The lower portion was not, it's not a living area. That's where the goat was.
When did you play soccer and things like that? Did your kids do any
No,
ball games?
after the war, because my brothers were very interested in baseball, they were able, I don't know where my oldest brother got a ball, a baseball and a bat,
Yeah.
and we walked some 20 minutes to a park to just play our version of baseball.
Yeah,
So-
that's right. I forgot baseball is popular in the Philippines.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and basketball too now.
And basketball, more so basketball.
Is that more so basketball? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I suppose the grade school you went to was at your parish.
No, I didn't. We were constantly moving. I have the story of our move after the war. And so we were still in Bicol region. My father died before the war ended. So my mom had to work hard to get together enough money to bring us back to Manila.
Now, on December 7th or 8th, whatever it may be, in Manila, you were about close to 3 years old, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember anything at all about it, or do you remember what your parents said about it, or anything like that? Because they not only did they bomb Pearl Harbor, but they bombed Manila
They
as well,
bombed
and
Manila
Clark
right
Field.
after. Mhm. What I remember is when there were air raids, the siren. There was a very loud siren, and my dad would take us to the hospital. It's because that's where the people took shelter. They said nobody's going to touch the hospital.
Oh,
That was the thinking, which was true. And you could see, I can remember seeing those dog fights at night.
really?
Yes. It was scary, but we were looking, and my brother said, "Look at that, something."
Well, again, you're too young to really remember before the war, but maybe your parents talked about it later on. Did they think that the Japanese may attack, that they were in peril from the Japanese, that war might come and they may invade the Philippines? Were people thinking that way, or was it just a shock when that all happened?
I don't know, but I believe that they did. They were afraid because we were on American territory. It would be attacked.
Were there many Japanese people living in Manila? Where you were going?
After,
No, I mean before. I mean,
oh no,
no,
not really.
okay.
I don't remember.
What about Chinese? I mean,
Chinese, a lot of
a lot of
Chinese.
Chinese.
We were so close to China. Taiwan's right there in the northern part of the Philippines.
Right. Yeah.
So the trade between China and the Philippines, actually, it was going on.
And your mom was a teacher. What did she teach?
First she taught grade school, and then taught high school. She taught English.
Oh.
She was an English teacher.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I assume, did you all speak Spanish as well as English?
English, yes. Spanish, a little. My mother was fluent, but she spoke to us in English.
What about what's that called? Tagalog?
Tagalog?
Yeah.
Yeah, we learned it afterwards. Actually, Tagalog, the Filipino language, was a second language in our school system during the American time, and even now.
Oh, even more so than Spanish then.
Even more so than Spanish, yes.
Mm-hmm. Is it a difficult language?
Tagalog, I found it difficult. It was I thought, my most difficult subject in school.
Did you like school?
Very much, very much. School was so good.
Yeah.
Something to learn every day.
Okay, so what year did you move south then from Manila, your
I
family?
believe it was 44 when there was a lot more of the air raids and the bombings going on. And so my father decided we would be safer down south, but because of his health, he elected to stay with his two sisters who were in Manila against my mother's wishes to go down south, but he thought we were safer in the southern portion.
Did you ever see him after you went down there?
No, we didn't see him.
Did your mom get a job teaching down south?
Yes, and that's the reason why we kept on moving, is because she found better jobs to be able to save money for us to move back to Manila.
Yeah. Did you see were there any air raids down south at all? Do you remember
Oh,
any?
yes.
There were there?
Yes, there were. And so
Well, by this time, it would be the Americans probably that were bombing the Japanese.
at the time, yes. Uh-huh.
So, were there some Japanese bases close around where you were?
The first place we lived in was my uncle's house, and it was right beside the Japanese barracks.
Did the Japanese give you or your family a bad time at all when we were
I
down there?
don't remember.
Don't remember.
But my mom, there was a Japanese officer that took English classes from her
Oh.
secretly, and then he would pay with food.
Uh-huh.
And so we got some food from the Japanese barracks because of
Yeah.
her teaching.
I'll be darned.
Uh-huh.
Does she know whatever happened to him?
No, I don't. I don't know if she knew.
Yeah.
I think she was trying to find out,
Yeah.
but couldn't find where.
Oh, that
What
would be
happened to
interesting
him.
to know if he
Yes.
survived or not. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
And when she died, she had some journals, but unfortunately, my brother's domestic help, because of termites, burned all the journals. Which is too bad, is because she
Yeah.
probably had a lot
A lot
of
of stuff.
information in there.
Yeah. Well, luckily you've got some nice pictures there we'll look at later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember when the war ended?
Yes, I do. We were in Nugget City, and then when I guess the air raids became more frequent, the frequency was there, a lot of wounded people. That I remember. Wounded people in carts being moved out of the city. And I don't know if they were all the civilians or whatever, but it was not a pretty sight to look at. We also moved to another portion of the Bicol region because my uncle was wanted by the Japanese.
For what?
He was treating the wounded of the rebels.
Oh. He was a doctor?
He was a doctor.
Oh. What was his name?
His name was Dr. Jose Alvarez.
Huh. So he would go up into the hills where the rebels were?
Yes, and then he would. it's kind of sad, but he thought he had to do it.
Sure. Yeah.
And then sometimes, because he had a clinic at home, some of the wounded will be brought in, and there was the Japanese barracks right there.
So they found out about what he was doing,
Yes, they found out.
but they never caught him.
They never caught him.
Did you have any other relatives that were either with the rebels or in the like the Filipino Scouts or in the American Army?
My father-in-law was in the USAF, United States Armed Forces in the Far East.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was a doctor too.
Oh,
He
you
was
were?
a medic.
Oh.
So
Okay, so now the war is over, and you would be about 6 or 7 years old, I
6 or
guess.
7 years old.
Okay.
But where we were, my mother always taught us. We were constantly, even during the time of the occupation, doing schoolwork.
Did the Japanese want you all to learn Japanese or stuff?
Yes, they wanted to. My oldest brother, though, had to work in the rice fields. He was old enough, they said, for him.
So they had him. And he was in the rice. The
Yeah.
Japanese kept the rice or
Yeah,
doled
right,
it out or whatever.
Right.
Did you have to take? Did any of you have to take any Japanese classes at all? Or?
No, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Some of the people, I guess, elected not to participate in whatever the programs are. And the Japanese, at that time, the pressure, the Americans were already coming in, and so they couldn't care less that we had.
Do you
In
remember
Manila,
when?
my mother always taught us.
Did do you remember when you first saw your first American soldier?
Yes, when in this little town called Kamaligan, where we were, my uncle took the whole family. It was only accessible by rowboat. So we were there, and there was a schoolhouse. Then all of a sudden they said, "Oh, the Americans are coming by the Bicol region." So we all ran out to the banks, and you would see the boats coming in. It was a large river because it was by the mouth of the ocean.
So, did the soldiers come close to where you were?
No, but after the war, my mother taught in an agricultural high school in Bicol. The American soldiers that were there, I guess they already finished the mapping up. They had their facilities in the agricultural school.
Oh. Okay. Now you finished grade school and then you go to high school, I
Yes.
suppose.
I went to high school in Manila
Oh, okay. So now when did you go? When did you come back to Manila then?
when I was in the 5th grade.
Oh, and your whole family came back.
The whole family came back.
Did your mother ever remarry?
No.
But she could just by teaching school, she was able to provide for you all.
Not really. We had an aunt. My father's oldest sister was more than 20 years older than he. She was the oldest sister and he was the youngest. And when he was 6 years old, their mother died. So my aunt, actually, she was the one who took care of him, sent him through college and everything. And she became our quote-unquote grandmother. She promised my father when he died, before he died, she was going to see to it the family was taken care of. And she actually did.
Where did she get her money, or how was she able to do that?
She was a supervisor for what we call the Department of Education here for home economics. Then she became a professor in the Philippine Women's University. So she had been able to help a lot of people not only us. There were other nephews and nieces that she had really helped.
What was her name?
Adelina, Adelina. Wonderful, like a grandmother to all of us. She sent us all through college. She had a farm, and each time tuition fee was due, she would sell a cow. She didn't have a ranch, but there were just a few.
Yeah. So when you went back to Manila, where did you live then? What part of Manila, or what street did you live on?
When we went, we lived in Misericordia. Joined my aunt first, and then moved to San Juan, Rizal when I was in college.
Okay. Now, is college? Well, okay. Where did you go to? You went to high school in Manila. What was the name of the school? Your high school you went to? And is it high school and college? Is it pretty much the same as we have here in the States?
Well, high school is a 4-year high school, and I believe it's almost the same except the elementary school. We went through 6 grades and then went on to high school.
Oh, started high school in the 7th grade then.
The 7th grade is actually first year high school.
Oh, okay, it would have been. And up through the 12th grade?
No, up to the 10th grade.
Oh, okay, so 4 years of high school.
4 years of high school.
But you start
from the 6th.
Yeah, but you start 2 years sooner.
Yeah, we didn't have the 2 years of the middle school.
Right. Okay.
There's no middle school.
So you would be like 16 when you graduated from high school then.
Yes.
And what was the name of the high school you went to?
The University of Santo Tomas had a high school.
Oh, they did. Yeah.
Yes, they did.
Now I think I mentioned to you, my friend Dave, he was interned there at Santo Tomas
Yes.
for the first couple years, and then they sent him down to Los Baños.
Los Baños.
Yeah.
We had a friend, his name was David Foster, my aunt Adelina's friend.
Uh-huh.
He was working at the post office at the time the war broke out. He was interned at the University of Santo Tomas.
Santo Tomas too, yeah. It's funny, there's you may have seen it, if not I'll show it to you, a Life magazine, I think it's 1945, and it shows Santo Tomas, and it shows where all the beds were, and Dave could point to the
exact place.
the exact bed that was his during the time.
Good.
So yeah. So then, where did you go to college?
The University of Santo Tomas.
Oh, okay, yeah. So high school and college were at the same place, but in different buildings?
Different buildings.
Okay. And what did you major in? What were you?
Well, I have a degree on chemical engineering.
Oh.
Yes.
And when you were in high school, do you remember any of your favorite teachers you had?
Oh, yes. History was my favorite. I loved history, and even now I like reading. Yeah. I don't particularly read nonfiction. Oh, I read nonfiction, but not
so
much of fiction.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I guess you would call it historical fiction, historical novels, but a lot of times there's a lot of good history, and where if somebody's really done a lot of research, you know.
That's right.
And you can still learn. It makes it it's not quite so dry. You kind of.
I agree. I like that.
Those, yeah. My wife, there's a lady named Alessandra, I think, and she's from down the Caribbean, Spanish, and she writes very, very well and a lot of historical kind of novels and stuff. So the history that you like, is it Filipino history, or is it world history, or anything particular, European?
Any history going back to.
Yeah, I like things in the back, too.
So if they have archaeological digs that comes up with some changes in history, I love that part. I would read it.
Yes. But were you interested in chemistry at the time too?
Yes, I thought chemistry and math was pretty easy.
Uh-huh.
I believe it's because of the teachers. The way the teachers taught was how the kids picked up.
Yeah. By the way,
Science and
Dave,
math.
afterwards, after the war, he went to college and got a degree in um, geology.
Oh, how good.
So you probably would have a lot in common because, I mean, somewhat historical. You're in geology, you're finding all
Geology,
this
yes.
old stuff too, you know. So hopefully he'll be here. He usually comes in on Friday, so I hope we get to meet him. If not, maybe another time. So did you have any particular boyfriends when you were in college?
When I was in college, yes, then eventually I got married to,
One of your
yeah.
mate in your somebody that you met in college?
Yes, I met
Yeah.
in college.
Okay. And what's his name?
His name was Aurelio, Aurelio.
Gomez?
Gomez.
Okay. And did he grow up in Manila? Where did?
Yes, during the war they were in Manila.
Uh-huh. And did he talk much about what it was like for him?
No, he didn't.
What did his father do?
His father was a doctor.
Oh.
He was the one who was
Oh,
in
the ones that they were
USF.
after. Oh,
Yes.
okay. Yeah. And what was his? Tell me again. What was his father's name?
Aurelio Gomez.
His father's the same name.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
They
And-
kind of 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. And their ancestors, had they pretty much all lived in Manila?
Yes, they
way
did.
back.
Way back in Manila.
And what was his mother's name and her
His-
maiden name?
His mom's name was Magdalena Magpayo.
Okay. I didn't ask you, I guess. How do you know how your mother and father met?
I believe they met in high school.
Hmm.
They went to Manila High School in Manila.
Uh-huh.
That's where they met.
Okay. So, how old were you when you met Mr. Gomez?
At a party. But our parties there were so simple.
Yeah.
We just had a few cookies and some sodas.
Yeah.
Coke was
Yeah.
popular at that time.
Yeah. Did the culture change after the war, as far as did many of the Americans stay in the Philippines? I mean, did they assimilate in, and did the jive and all the American music and all that stuff, was that popular then?
Yes, everything American or Western was really picked up by the Filipinos. So if you go to the Philippines, you will see that Manila probably would look like any metropolitan city here.
Yeah. Even then.
Even then, yes.
Yeah.
Even
I mean, during the war, were you able to go to American movies?
during the war, no. But after the war, actually, I didn't see my first movie until after the war.
Oh, really?
Yes. One of my uncles, when we went from Bicol to visit family, we hadn't moved back yet. He brought the whole family to see a movie.
Do you remember the movie that you saw the first time?
I don't remember the movie.
So when did you guys get married?
In 1960,
1960.
yes.
And what year did you meet for the first time?
In the 50s, 58.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's right. In high school and college, okay, I keep, yeah. Time marches on. Yeah,
Yes.
so you would have,
I was in college.
you've been in college, yeah,
I was
okay.
in college.
And so, you got married before you graduated from college, or before?
No, after.
Well, so you had both graduated. So what did he do, and what did you do when you
He was a salesman, and in the Philippines, first I worked after I graduated from college. a fertilizer company in the chemical lab for testing.
And you're a chemical engineer now.
I graduated right after graduation.
Mm-hmm.
Then it wasn't working out very well, so I applied for a teaching job at the Philippine College of Arts and Trades. It was a technological institution where I taught math and chemistry for 10 years. So
In the meantime, what is your husband doing?
he was a
salesman. What did
yes,
he?
for
Who did he work
furniture. It was a furniture company.
Like in a store, a furniture store, or
The manufacturer.
so he would travel around
Uh-huh.
to sell to other
Right.
stores and stuff. Yeah. Oh, okay. What was the name of that company?
Oh, I forgot the name of the company. It still is a company there, I believe. They still manufacture.
And how many children do you have?
2.
And what are their names?
The oldest is Aurelio.
How do you spell that?
Aurelio.
Okay.
He's the 4th.
Is that a typical Spanish? I mean,
It's a Spanish name.
Yeah, I don't know that I've heard that
Marcus
before.
Aurelius.
Oh, Marcus Aurelius. Oh, Aurelio. Okay, I got
Aurelio.
you. Yeah, Marcus Aurelius. Yeah.
Yes, I think that's where it
Probably
came from.
Yeah. Okay.
Probably that one.
Yeah.
And so he was the 4th Aurelio,
Mhm.
4th generation Aurelio.
Mhm.
And the second one, his name was Martin. His name is Martin.
Okay. And what years were they born?
Aurelio, we call him Jovi for short, because he's Aurelio Vicente and Junior Joe, whatever. And he was born in 1961, and Martin was born in 66.
And where do they live now?
Aurelio is in Jovi, is in Austin, Texas. He has his family there. He has got 2 kids, and Martin is in Laverne,
Oh, okay.
California.
Oh.
He has 4 kids.
Not pretty close to where you live then.
Yes,
Okay.
5 minutes away.
So you have 6 grandchildren?
I have actually 7 because Aurelio got married. This is his second marriage.
Okay. And what kind of work do they do, the boys?
Well, let's see. Aurelio he's a representative. It's a Dutch company that does sell and manufacture power generating equipment and tools or whatever it is. I believe that it's power generation. So he has a large territory. He goes around in many states.
Oh. And your other son?
He's a manufacturer's representative for a bicycle manufacturer.
Okay. So when did you first? You got married, and were you living in Manila?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Do you remember the first house that you had?
No, not Manila, but it was San Juan, Rizal.
Oh, okay.
San Juan, Rizal.
And you remember your first house that you had?
First house we rented an upper floor apartment and then moved to a bigger residence and rented that residence before we left and came here
And when was that? When did you come to the States?
in 1972.
Had you been to the States before then?
No.
To visit, I think. So what prompted you to come to the States?
Many of my classmates and friends were here. And so they said, "What are you doing there? Why don't you
Better
come
opportunities
over?"
here,
Said
they thought.
better opportunities, and they had at that time, I guess, the Immigration Department for engineers had an easy application process,
Mhm.
and so it was easy to apply and get approved. So I just applied, got approved.
And you were able to bring your family too?
Yes, everybody.
Uh-huh.
In fact, when we landed in Honolulu, the immigration, the customs handed an envelope. The green cards were there for everybody.
Oh. And where did you come to first here in the States?
In Los Angeles. I had an aunt living in Los Angeles. And I have a cousin who's there too. So there's that family support.
Mm-hmm.
What I wanted to do was apply for an engineering job. I found out that companies rarely hired women.
Mm.
Women engineers were not hired.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but it worked out very well. My first job was with an insurance company as an underwriting assistant, and then I moved on.
Did you stay with that company the whole time?
No, because I also found out you had to move to get promotions.
Mm-hmm.
Being a woman, then you got your promotions by moving to a better job. At that time, but now it's so easy.
Yeah.
Then after a while, I applied for a job at the Department of Insurance, the State Department of Insurance. So I worked there for 20 years.
Oh, okay. Where was that?
Downtown LA.
Downtown. And where did you live? Where did the kids grow up and everything?
The kids grew up, let's see, up to high school. We were in Los Angeles. We were able to buy a house. On the second year we were here.
Oh, good. What street was that on? Or do you
On
remember,
Haven Street.
remember
in
the
Los
address?
Angeles. It's, what's the number of that street?
That's okay. But so I mean, Los Angeles is a pretty big area.
Yes,
what part
pretty
of it?
close to Alhambra, by the El
Oh.
Sereno area.
Okay.
And so that's where the kids went to school.
Uh-huh. Where did they go to high school?
My oldest son graduated from Wilson High School.
Mm-hmm.
My younger son, Martin, in junior high, went to Portola Junior High. It was a magnet school for the gifted.
Mm.
Then he moved on to Wilson in high school, but we moved him to a Catholic school, Salesian High School, where he graduated.
Salesian?
Salesian High
Uh-huh.
School, yes.
Okay. And and so then you lived at that house for how long?
About until I got divorced. I sold the house,
Oh.
bought a house in Laverne.
Okay. And oh, all right. And where in Laverne was your house?
That's where my younger son's
That's
living
where
at.
he's living in now. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Then I
And
moved to Claremont.
to Claremont. That's where you live now.
That's where I live now.
And what did you do? I know you're interested and you do a lot of reading, I'm sure, but do you have other interests too, or have you? Did you play any sports or tennis or anything like that?
No, I didn't. I did when I was in college, but after that, I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you do these days?
I volunteer for the Red Cross.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I spend most of the week at the Red Cross in Claremont and Arcadia.
Uh-huh. Doing what, basically?
Well, Mondays I go to Arcadia and prepare the mannequins for the classes. So wash them, disinfect them, put them together again for the next classes,
Mm-hmm.
and do the same thing in Claremont. But I'm also a member of what they call the disaster action teams. We are on call whenever there's a disaster.
Uh-huh.
So it doesn't have to be a big one. It can be a single family fire, single family home fire, and a family is displaced. So the temporary needs are taken care of by the Red Cross. So some food for a week, hotel expenses for 2-3 days until they can decide where they're going.
My friend Dave, again, I think I mentioned to you when he was in Manila, he was a Boy Scout, but he also had his Red Cross card, and he was an ambulance driver. When the air raids would be going, and he would have to go and pick up the people that were injured real bad and stuff like that for the Red Cross. Yeah. Do you, what parish do you belong to in Claremont?
In Claremont, it's Our Lady of the Assumption.
Are you active in there?
I was, when I was in Laverne, for the Holy Name of Mary, but in this particular parish, I'm not active with the ministry because of the Red Cross disaster action. When you're on call, you have to be ready to go.
Sure.
So.
Were you a Eucharistic minister at?
Yes, I was before. Yeah. So now I'm not a Eucharistic minister. I plan on, but.
And Bob, I think I mentioned we go to St. Teresa. It's a Catholic church close by here, and there are a lot of Filipinos that go to the church.
Oh,
we know a lot of them. Yeah.
Mostly medical people.
Not
Nurses.
necessarily. They I don't know exactly what all they do, but there's a lot of Filipinos that live in the area. It seems like, or at least we know quite a few of them. So, well, is there? I think we might be getting close to wrapping it up. Anything you'd like to add?
No, I'm just so honored for this participating in your program. I didn't realize that you had such a program.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad that we saw you. Luckily, we probably would have come across you anyhow if you'd have got up here. But one of the fellows downstairs who had talked to you came up and mentioned to Mickey and I about you.
Yes,
so we ran down, and Mickey got a hold of you. And
because we were looking at that plane, and I said, I remember a plane. My first airplane ride was a military plane. And the seats were on the side.
Yeah, like the C-47, yeah. What was the circumstances of that, your first airplane ride?
My first airplane ride was, my mother had to go back to Manila to see to it. She probably was following up on applications for a teaching job when we went back.
When you moved here to the States, was your mother still alive?
Yes.
Did she ever come over here?
Yes, she came over.
To live?
Visit? No,
Oh, just
she
to visit.
didn't want to live here. After 30 days, she said, "You're all busy, nobody's at home." And my 4 brothers are there, and a huge number of grandchildren.
Are here or
over
there?
there.
Oh, so you're the only one of your family, pretty much.
I'm the only one here. And so she said, the family's there.
Yeah. When was the last time you were back to the Philippines?
2 years ago. I visited for 6 weeks. Spent the Christmas there.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Have you seen much changes in Manila since you left?
Oh yes, so many high rises and so many condominiums. Apparently, a lot of people are retiring. Chinese and Koreans especially retire there. You see a lot of Koreans. Yes. They buy the condominiums.
I heard Bob talking about Marcos. Were you living here or there when he was in power?
Part. He was in power at that time.
Was he as bad as what people seem to think of that he was, in your opinion?
In my opinion? I don't know, because the kind of politics over there is so different. In certain conditions, I guess, under certain conditions, a kind of, I don't know, maybe he became too powerful after a while. I guess.
Now you hear out, I think out in the countryside, they're, I think they're communists,
Yes.
but they seem rather, can cause a lot of trouble.
Yes, they do.
What's up with that? What's that all about?
Well, it's because I guess there's so much poverty. So you have too much of the unequal. You have so much people with so much power and so much money, and people who have nothing at all, and they have to go through garbage cans or a lot of, they call squatters, but they are actually homeless and build their homes on somebody else's property. So you can see why there is that kind of activity, I guess,
Yeah.
in people who want to make changes to government.
What's the relationship between the Philippines and the United States? Has it changed since 1945? Does the Philippines get their independence? I'm a
Yes.
little, okay.
In 1947,
Okay.
we got the independence.
Was that a good thing or bad thing, do you think?
Maybe it's a good thing. The people would still be wanting to be free, I guess. I don't know if that's true. But if you talk to certain people, they will say it was better that we were retained as a territory, like Puerto Rico or
Right.
the Virgin Islands, rather than given the independence.
It seems like that you're more likely to have corruption now than
Could be.
if I mean,
Uh-huh.
it seems like there's a little bit more checks and balances, let's
That's
say that
true.
way, if they were part of the United States like they were before.
Probably, but the government was patterned with the government of the United States.
Yeah.
You still have the three executive
Did it?
branches.
Yeah.
You have the judicial, the executive, and the legislative,
Okay,
and they're supposed to have checks and balances.
yeah. Doesn't always work that way, though, does it?
No, it doesn't. In some cases, though, I guess when there's so much poverty and strife, a benevolent government probably works better, even if authoritative.
Mhm.
Maybe, I don't know.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming in and sharing with us today.
You are so welcome. Thank you so
You're
much
welcome.
for inviting.
Well, you're welcome. Well, good luck, and I want to compliment you on all the good work you're doing with the Red Cross and all the things that you do, and
Oh,
I'm sure
you're
you've done
welcome.
a lot of
Thank
stuff in
you.
the past too.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Keeps me busy too.
Yeah.
It's nice to work for with the people in the Red Cross.
Yeah.
Very, very nice.